Whenever I get to a low point, I think about how this is where most people stop and this is when they don't win. Building a business is hard and hard feels shitty. This is what hard feels like, and this is why most people can't do it, but you can. I always go back to this quote in the podcast Modern Wisdom, and it's a podcast with Alex Hormozy as a guest. And Alex Hormozy is always known for his crazy quotes that are really good at motivating people. And this specific section I always go back to whenever I feel like something is difficult, or I feel very down, I feel very unmotivated to do something, or whenever I just feel like I don't want to do something anymore. I always go back to this podcast and I always listen up to this point, and it always brings me back to a reset of this is just what hard feels like, and it's okay. Every time I hear that, I realize that's all right. This is just what I signed up for from the beginning, is hard. And in the beginning, when I first started, I thought it was hard, but it wasn't, and I still did it. And I was always wondering, what did that hard feel like? Because I was always up for it. I was always down for it to be hard. I knew I had to put in the time and put in the hard yards into it. And I knew it was going to be difficult, but then I didn't know when that would be, right? And I think I'm at the point where I can feel it being really hard now, and truly it feels very difficult. And when you get to that stage where something is very, very hard and difficult, you want to quit and you want to just stop it and just stop doing what you're doing right now, and just do something that's easier. And essentially, I've been having these thoughts for the last 2 to 3 weeks where, I don't know, it's just been very difficult for me. I feel like I'm just going around in circles and, not finding, that one winning product. And this week, I knew that I had to change that kind of mindset, and I need to change that way of thinking. Obviously, it's not going to be good for the long term, and I need to fix, what's in my head. And listening back to that podcast, I realized that I always go back and listen to Alex talk about a lot of things. And I realized that the things I'm going through, actually, they're not that big of a deal. That, the problems that I'm having is actually good, right? And it just means that I'm actually getting somewhere. Because for most people, they won't even have this problem to begin with. And I should feel very fortunate to be in the position that I am, to be able to do what I can do and be at where I'm at this point, because only so many people will dream of getting to this stage where where they know that they're going to make, the 6 to 7 figures, but then they're on that journey to learn more and to get there one stage. And I truly believe I'm kind of at that stage in my life right now. But then to get through this hard yard of, understanding that this is just what hard feels like, and it's okay. And yeah, I really wanted to put that quote out to you guys who are listening and watching this, because for me, whenever I'm at that low point, I reset myself by listening to this. And yeah, it just builds my mindset back up, and for me to just come to terms with where I'm at right now. And it's important that you always have a lot of time to just sit by yourself and to think about the problems and issues you're going through, and to, instead of just putting them in the back of your mind by keeping yourself busy and doing other stuff. And I think for me that has always been one of the biggest problems, was whenever I had an issue or a problem with something that is difficult or I didn't like, I would do something else to put it in the back of my mind and forget about it. And this is so dangerous when it comes to trying to problem solve for yourself, because you're literally throwing your problems away by, just ignoring it. And obviously things will build up and get worse over time if you don't resolve them, the earlier you can. And so, having these like realizations is like very difficult to say to a lot of people, but then it's the truth. And, I think for a lot of people, they don't want to come to that realization. But then for me, I'm at this point where I want to be able to change everything. Everything that's bad about myself, everything that I did in my past life, I want to change it all and become a different person. And I've done so much already, and now I've like left basically the hardest parts of the things that I need to change. And so every time I do have a problem, I realize that it's so much deeper than just that problem, right? Like in terms of, say for example, money, right? Like a lot of problems that I've realized for myself with money is that I will actually ignore a lot of the problems when it has concern with money. And that is something that I think is just grown on me, where I've like learned it through like just behaviors, in family, and just like, not being financially literate growing up. And, that in turn has come onto me and has happened to my own business, right? In dropshipping, where whenever there's a customer issue, I am scared to face it because of this money fear that I have, right? The fear of money. Like I feel like I've always been scared of money. And so instead of tackling the issue of money head on and understanding why and how I can fix these issues, I hide it behind my head. I hide it behind, my mind where I can't see it. And, to be at the point now where I have to actually look within for the answers of myself, look within for why I don't like to do certain things, and why I'm like stressed when it comes to certain topics. All these like fears, subconscious fears in myself, I need to change. And it's really difficult to admit, but then that is the first solution, is to admit it to yourself out loud, to other people, right? Like I'm not scared of sharing these things. And I've got friends who watch these videos, and this is it could be like a very embarrassing topic to even bring up, to let people know that you've got this problem with money and like, your fear of facing it. But then that just shows like how big of a problem we have with like society in general in terms of our fears and not being able to admit it because we don't want judgment from other people. The fear of judgment is such a big thing. And I for sure used to have the biggest thing in terms of fear of judgment. And, I was always so scared of showing how I am to people outside of the family. And it's, you're just self-conscious of everything. And it's fair, like everyone, when you grow up, the environment you're in school, it's all about judgment. And so you grow up having this fear of judgment because you don't want to get bullied in school. And then that comes off after school. It comes off, through social media and through work and everything. You have this fear of judgment. And then, so then that makes you not want to admit to a lot of things that, are happening to yourself. And, for me, it was a big hurdle for me at some point to get rid of that fear of judgment of others. But then I realized that I just wasn't going to let other people stop me from doing what I wanted to do. And then from that day on, I just didn't care anymore. I didn't care about posting on Instagram. I didn't care about showing people good things that I do and get. If I was to post something, it would be because I have planned to do something. There's a bigger picture to it for me posting it, right? I post like my results from Shopify on my Instagram solely because I want to build a personal brand and not because I want to show off to people how much money I make. I actually don't want to show anyone. Truth be told, I don't want to show anyone how much money I made. Only like my closest friends who actually care about it. But then I wouldn't want to show the whole world. Like, I actually didn't want to, but then I realized that no one would trust me in my personal brand if I'm talking about dropshipping and I don't show that I actually do make some money off it. And I understand, like, literally everything comes down to how much money you make, and that will depend on how, viral you can become as a dropshipping YouTuber, whatever, person. And so, yeah, like, that's the only reason why I post on my Instagram my results. But I don't really want to, and I don't really want to show anyone. But then, yeah, it's just for what I want to do and what I want to build that I have to do that. But then a lot of people can see it as, like, he's just trying to show off and flex. And, you can have that fear of judgment in your mind, constantly thinking it like that. But then, truth be told, the only reason why you have that fear of judgment is because you do the same to other people. Because you think like that about other people who do those, who judge, you judge those people who do things like that. And so therefore you have that fear because subconsciously you do it to other people, right? So then it only makes sense for you to have that fear because you don't want other people to think the same as how you think about them. And so, yeah, like, it's crazy how that works, right? We all have these fears in ourselves, and it makes us not want to do what we want to do. And so that's why, it's important to speak aloud about these problems that you have about yourself and, resolve them. But yeah, I'm at a point where it's, dropshipping is really difficult now, like finding it hard. But I realized this week that it's okay. This is what I signed up for, and that's why this is the hard that I was, that I was wondering from when I started last year. Always wondered what hard felt like, and now I am there. This is what hard feels like, and I need to punch through this wall, and then I'll see the W's on the other side. That is how I see it, and so I just need to work harder. This is the point where, it's literally like what I thought was hard was actually so much harder than what it was. But yeah, only the ones who are doing dropshipping, only you guys will understand what I'm talking about, or you're doing some sort of business and only you guys will understand what it means when I say, it's actually harder than what you thought it was. But it's worth it because you're learning so much more. But yeah, just going to end that here for today's video. Hopefully you guys learned something. Maybe you want to tackle your own fears of judgment, your own, things with perfectionism, all of these things. Maybe it's got you guys to have a think about it, because it's something that I think I didn't think about before I started dropshipping. But yeah, I'll see you guys in tomorrow's video, and don't forget to subscribe.